Welcome, everyone. Thank you for coming to the first annual Congolese Women's Forum. I'm so glad that you guys were able to make it during this time. I'm so excited for you guys to participate, and thank you to my speakers as well for taking your time to, be part of this event. It's going to be a conversation on career, community, and culture. So I'm just thankful that everyone is here, and I'm excited, and let's get started.
All right, so welcome, like Liz said, to the first edition of the Congolese Women Forum. We're gonna be exploring career, culture, and community. So thank you everyone for joining us on a Sunday afternoon, and a big thank you to the panelists for taking time out of their busy schedule to speak with us. Without any further delay, I'm gonna have everyone introduce themselves, so you can just give us your name, your profession, a bit of your cultural background, and also a bit on your organization. We can start with Pacey, yeah.
Hi everyone, my name is Pacey. I am from Congo. I was born there. I moved here about 16 years ago. I model full-time. I'm a student full-time, and I also own the Cradle NYC, which is a West African restaurant. I own the Cradle Farm, which is our farm where we grow our produce for the restaurant, and also ASO, which is a smoothie and fruit bar where we make smoothies with fruits from different parts of the world. So I think that's all there is to know.
Wow, that's a lot.
Hi everyone, I am Kezia. I am actually mixed from Congo and Ivory Coast. My dad is Congolese, my mom is Ivorian. I'm born in France, grew up there, moved to New York about 10 years ago for my profession. I'm a graphic designer. And a couple years ago, I would say 4 years ago, I launched Afropolita magazine, which is an African lifestyle magazine for men and women.
Wow.
Hi, my name's Adolphine. I was born in the Congo. I came here, I'm not going to tell you the year because you don't need to know my age, but I came here when I was young. I own the Adolphine brand, where we make artisanal cultural items all over Africa, including Congo. And we also have a nonprofit called Les Amis de Mulunda and Georgette.
Les Amis de Georgette.
Mulunda and Georgette.
Mulunda and Georgette. Okay, very good. Okay, so I want to take it back to the beginning, since everybody has African ancestry. I want to know, how was it like for you guys to grow up in an African household, Congolese household, Ivory Coast household? We can keep the same order.
For me, it was, I don't really know. I mean, it was normal. It wasn't anything crazy. I mean, I played outside on the street with my friends all the time. Shockingly, I went to buy I probably shouldn't say this, but my mom would send me to buy beer to the store at at the age of 7 years old, which you can't do here, but and I played out till late at night. I remember during New Year's, my neighborhood, the streets will fill up with lights, and they'll have lights on the bottom of the street. So it was really cool. We ate the normal, typical African stuff. I don't really know. Compared to the U.S., it's completely different though. I remember my neighborhood, and I think that's just all over Africa, where trees produce fruits, edible fruits. Here, completely different. When I came to the U.S., I remember I wanted to pick a berry, and my dad was like, "Don't do that," and I remember my mom wanted to send me to buy beer, and then he was like, "Don't do that." So I guess that was a culture shock for me, because I'm used to just being free in Congo, and then here it's you were limited to a lot of stuff. But I would say that's it.
I think for me it was most likely normal. Growing up with two African parents, two different countries, so I think it's even better because we had the chance to know the Congo, Côte d'Ivoire. I grew up in France, so we really have a mix of culture. Very young, we travel a lot to Africa when we're younger for holidays. So from music to food to culture, we really were into this mix very young. So everything about Congo, whether it's music, art, Côte d'Ivoire, France. So I think it's a good experience. and I think it's now that I'm a grown person, I can see the benefits of it, being able to know the culture, where we're from, even though we don't know everything and we're still learning. I think it's a great thing to know where you're from, and your family story, your ancestors. It's I think it's a plus to have.
Yeah, I want to add to that. I think having a home base and having that fabric of your family story does give you the confidence that others just don't have. So I came here when I was younger, when my parents were divorced. So when I was in Congo, I lived with my mother, and I had cousins take me to school. I was her only child, so I was spoiled. That's why I'm a brat now. And when we came to the States, I lived with my father and his wife and my half siblings, and that was a totally different experience. We lived in New York and then in New Jersey, and my dad used to always say, like, this house is Zaire. I don't care what everybody else does, you don't do it. So I had no sleepovers. I didn't know what Beverly Hills Troop was or any of that kind of stuff. I was completely clueless. I was really in this bubble. I played sports. I was home at 5, and I was in bed at 8 o'clock, even at age 16. So it was just totally a different experience. And now that I'm a mom, my husband's American, I treat my daughter the same way. I'm like, you have an African mom, these are the rules. During summer, you have mommy school. We do this. This is what I expect of you. Here's the expectations. You have, your grandma's name. This is what I expect of you to act. And I think having that home base and the story really helped us and helps her now.
Okay, so that's good. So, like, I see both your parents immigrated from Congo, and then you were born in France. So, but all your parents immigrated. So, I don't know if you guys would know this, but like, what was the main reason that made them want to live home, like Congo, Africa, to move to France or even to the US, and how was that experience for you or even for themselves?
Well, I actually have a funny experience of how I ended up in the United States. I had no idea I was coming to the US. True story. It was just a random day. I was waking up. We're going to our uncle's house to visit. We packed a lot of suitcases, which was odd to me. I was like, why are we packing so many suitcases? She's like, oh, no reason. You're just going to your uncle's house for a few days. We went to our uncle's house. The next day, we drove to the airport. I was like, why are we driving to the airport? Oh, no reason, just going to the airport. And our whole family came with us to the airport. I was just like, why are we going to the airport? It doesn't make any sense. We boarded a flight, and as soon as we sat down, the plane took off. She goes, oh, we're going to the United States to be with your dad. And I was just like, what? Yes, I cried the whole, trip all the way here. Even when I got here, I was uncomfortable for, I think, 4 months. I was homesick just because I had no idea that I was leaving, and that shock of never seeing my friends again, my grandma, my grandpa, my cousins who I grew up with, was it really hit me hard. And having to meet my new family members I actually didn't really accept them 4 or 5 months later, because everything was just new to me. You just take a little girl, you drop her somewhere else with no knowledge of anything. It was shocking. And building a relationship with my dad was something really hard for me to do, because I couldn't speak Lingala to anybody else but my brother and my mom. My cousins didn't speak Lingala. No one spoke Lingala except, my dad and stuff. But he's, very American, so he spoke English to me. And just going to school, everything was it took me a while to adjust to this lifestyle. So that experience was shocking for me.
Well, I think for me, my parents left Africa for, I think, different reasons, where my dad was and his brother were very, very smart. So automatically they had full scholarship. So they end up going to France and did the best schools and all kinds of doctorate and things like that. So mainly immigration on my dad's side was because of education. Knowing that he's coming from his mother never really got the chance to go to school, so I don't think she can even write and read, but thank God she was able to raise two nerds, if I can say that. So they basically came to France for scholarship. My mom left Côte d'Ivoire because she was, I think, coming from a family that was doing good for themselves. My grandfather did really good for himself. So I think it was more of a thing for Africans to send their children to Europe for for school. So my mom was in boarding school and things like that with her siblings. So she left also Côte d'Ivoire for education. And I guess while being student in south of France, my parents met. That's really what happened. And then obviously we all born in south of France and grew up in France, and still, being a lot involved with the African culture, going on vacation and things like that. So
you and I both had traumatic experiences. My dad was a diplomat, and like I said, my parents were divorced. So he came before. He was a chargé des affaires to the United Nations, and I also didn't know I was coming to America. And my mom took me to one of my cousin's house, and my cousin took me to the airport, and I got on the plane. I was like, where the hell are we going? And when we got here, it was snowing. I had no coat. I was traumatized. I didn't speak to anyone for 6 months. I did not like America because I grew up, with my family, and being an only child, older cousins who really took care of you and, showed you the way. And also my younger siblings were so young, and till this day they don't speak French, Lingala, nothing, and I do. So I've kept my relationships with my cousins, my childhood cousins, but we came because he had the post, and we stayed ever since. But I agree, as a mom, tell your kids where you're going. Life advice, tell your kids if you're moving.
It's funny you mentioned coats, because when leading up to us traveling here, my dad was sending us a bunch of coats and stuff. And I was like, why is he sending us coats? We're in Africa. We don't need these. And I didn't even know what they were. But once we got here, I learned really quick what they wit's funny that you mentioned that.
Wow. So you guys had both shocking experience. For you, you just grew up in France. So with that shock, how during your formative years, how did you guys navigate culture, community? And for you, were you, even though you were born in France, were you mostly within the African community, or did you navigate both France culture and everything? And what's the hardest part of that transition of trying to find yourself between cultures and different communities, and all those dynamics?
I think for us, very, very young, obviously, both for the culture, whether it's the Côte d'Ivoire side or Congo side, we're involved in the house. So hearing my mom speaking Baoulé with her siblings, or my dad speaking Lari with his brother or his mom and things like that. So language-wise, even though my parents speak French to each other, we were still hearing a lot of different dialects. The food, obviously, we were eating Congolese food, Ivorian food, French food, so it was a mix of everything. I will say the shock is more because obviously we grew up in France, so when you go on vacation or when someone comes from the country home, there's always a culture shock where there's things that you don't do. For example, me as an African, my parents, they let me be a left-handed person. So I'm left-handed. I eat with my left hand. I do pretty much everything with my left hand. So going on vacation, that is a major problem. Even in 2020, there's still African who point me out and be like, oh, you eat with your left hand? Oh, you left-handed? I'm like, yeah, I'm left-handed. So imagine you go on vacation, you at a dinner table with the whole family, and me not paying attention, and I just go ahead and whoop, scoop the food with my left hand, and everybody's looking at me like, what is she doing? It's almost okay. I'm like, sorry. So it's just balancing out and just being aware of other people, cultures and reaction, and just make it work.
So for me, the language was shocking. I didn't speak a word of English. And my dad wanted us to like really, assimilate to American culture. So when we first got here, he sent me to New York City Public School in Jamaica, Queens. And I was a proper African girl with like, my beautiful dresses and like, I wore gloves and like bows in my hair, and I roll in and everyone's wearing jeans and like Run DMC t-shirts. I had like the perfect braids, speaking my French, bonjour tout le monde, je m'appelle. And people were like, what the hell? Where'd you come from? I looked like an alien, right? And I had no idea what anyone was saying. I remember my teacher was Miss Katz. She was doing a math problem, and people were having a hard time figuring it out. And I can't communicate, so I got really mad. I went up, grabbed a chalk, wrote the answer, and threw the chalk. I'm like, idiot! Get me out of here! I got sent to the principal's office. Like calling my father, like, get me! I hate America. Send me home. So it took some adjustment for me. First of all, my presentation. I couldn't go to school with like gloves and like full dress. I learned to wear jeans and like assimilate that way. But also, when we have family coming, you still have to get up and, offer them beer. I'm a modern woman. I'm not getting up and giving you beer. But you got to do it. Tonton, you want some beer? Okay. I don't cook, so I just hide in the kitchen with the aunties and I fake cook with everyone. So you got to just respect the cultural norms. I still have a hard time adjusting that. With my age, I can get away with it. Like when we go home for work, Tsunami's a lot more patient than I, and I'll say, hey, sorry, I'm American, but this is not going to work. And then I'll use like, hey, I understand. So you get the best of both worlds, and you're able to adjust, and you're also able to get away with more things too, because you'll say, I didn't grow up here. I don't know how you do things, but this is how I do it, and I want it done this way, this way, this way. And people will respect that as well. So I actually think having the duality is a benefit.
For me, it was definitely a benefit, especially in school. I went to a private school back in Congo, so I already knew off the bat I can't speak out of line when I'm in class. Like I can't, if my teacher didn't pick on me, I can't say anything. So here, going to an elementary school here in America, oh my gosh, kids are out of control. It's just like your child acts up in school, like you call the mom is yelling at the teacher. It's just like it didn't make any sense. So I remember all my classes, I never spoke if I wasn't called on. Like I referred to my teachers by their name, and I was like, they never called the house to complain, oh, your daughter did this. So my teachers were shocked. They're like, you're so polite. Like, what? Why are you polite? But it's just how I was raised going to school. Like, I don't want them to spank my head. Like, cause I went to a school where they spanked me if I said something wrong. I remember after school activities, I would just sit in a room and just literally write everything the teacher wrote on the board in cursive, like 500 times. And here after school activities, they're all running crazy. So it was just, I was shocked. But I made a lot of good friends that way with my teachers. And another thing was, in Africa, I grew up to kind of like fight. If I, in the street, like a girl talks to me anyhow, whatever, like, let's go, I was ready. So I remember being here, like my mom did my braids, like, those long string twist, little sukiasinga, yeah. So I did that for school. I thought I was cute, I was like, I'm cute. Look at my hair. Oh my gosh. And I went to school totally not cute. They started making fun of me. And, in Congo, okay, so that mentality kind of snapped, and I fought the girl. You're not supposed to do that. You're not supposed to fight anyone here. Got called to the principal office. That was my first experience of like getting in trouble. Here in America, you kind of, that culture isn't strong here. Into respect, that respect culture isn't strong here. My partner, he's Nigerian, so when I go to his family house, like I literally like bend down to like greet his parents. Or when I have parties at my own house and like my American friends come, it's like, and my mom tells them what to do, they're like, whoa. Like I just came for the party. But me knowing my background and knowing what my parents would expect of me, like when I go to any event or any parties, I automatically just offer help, like, oh, I'll do this, don't worry, I'll do that. So that has been a blessing in disguise for me, and I'm really grateful for that.
Yeah, and this, as far as like even culture-wise, like I remember something that a friend of mine told me, an American friend. We used to work together, and he was telling me, "It's so funny how you speak to your mom. Like when she comes, I'm like, what do you mean? How I speak to my mom?" And she's like, well, you have like such a good dynamic. Like you're so respectful and things like that. And I was like, trust me. You don't want to speak the wrong way to my mom. Like I'm like, and that was funny because for me it was like when you're raised with African parents, there's a certain standards that your parents want from you, and like even now, like I'm 39 years old, I will never even think about raising my voice to my parents just because I know that could either turn bad or it's just we don't even have the habits of doing that. So even other people coming from even being raised in France, living now in New York, being raised by African parents, automatically your standards are different. So even the way the way you move, the way you raise, and I sometimes when I have other people making me notice, I'm like, oh yeah, that's probably you're probably right, so because they see the difference. So and I think it's a plus to being able to have that.
So my kid, so my husband's American. She doesn't say a single word to me. Oui, maman, yes. But to her father, Dad, I hate my life. You make it so difficult. I'm like, you said you hate your life? You want me to give you a reason? I wasn't talking to you, Mom. I was talking to the American person. Because she knows how to handle each parent. She knows with me, there's like a fine line, right? Mommy's the boss. You do what you say. You have standards and expectations. And with Daddy, you can say you hate your life, but if you ever say it to me, I will give you a reason. So it's just like the African way of the way you grow up and how you treat your kids and the messages you relay to them.
Yeah. Wow, very good. Thank you for sharing. So I want to continue the conversation with your careers. So my first question is, did you have any idea that you would end up in your current career field? And if you had to change anything in the course of your career path, what would it be, if anything?
For me, I had no idea I would be in my career, let alone New York City. I remember like in high school, like I guess my senior year, my English teacher made us write like a 5-year goal letter to ourselves. And I remember writing like, oh, in 5 years I'll be in New York and I'll be doing this and I'll be doing that. And I ended up coming to New York literally a week after graduation. I moved here, I just packed my stuff and I moved here. An agency scouted me in DC for, I was coaching at a modeling competition, and the agency came and scouted me, and I just graduated high school, so I came to check it out. Next thing you know, I packed my bags and just moved because I was just like, whatever, like, I'm just gonna do it. I moved like $100 in my pocket, and I was like staying at a friend's house for like literally months, and my dad would ask me like, oh, where are you? I'm like, oh, I'm at a hotel. I'm at a hotel, like this is the hotel I'm at. And it was a lot of fun. And that's how I kind of got into, I stayed here, I got into modeling. And it's completely different living here and then when I'm back home, even till this day, like back home as in like in Maryland, when I go home, you don't see me outside. Like you do not see me. Like when my friends call to hang out, I have to ask my mom, like, oh, like, what's her name? Call me to hang out. Like, can I go? Or like, can I borrow your car? Like, but when I'm here, like this freedom was really scary because I didn't have that in Maryland. So I didn't know how to, how to control it and how to work with this. So I was very wild. But being a model and now having a restaurant, two completely different fields. And this transition from that to this has been really, really hard for me, just because I'm a model 24/7 every single day, no matter where I'm at. So having to keep that mentality, put it into the cooking field where I'm like wrapping my hair and and people come to the shop and they see me completely different. They don't assume that I'm a model. Has been really hard, and just balancing it all together with school and everything else. I would say if I would change a career. I don't think I would really change anything. I'm happy where I'm at and I know where I'm going. And I have always kept the end in mind, that this is where I'm going. If I were to change something, it has to bring me back to the same path somewhere along the way. I think I'm a model for a reason. I think I'm not like a famous supermodel for a reason. That's when I first came to New York. I was like, I want to be a famous model. Like, I want to be on every single cover of every single thing. And I did my first cover, and horrible experience. And then people started seeing me everywhere. They're like, oh, Pissy, and I didn't like that attention. And I didn't like suddenly people I went to school with, never spoke to, were posting me on their social media, oh, when you see your friends from college, from high school making it. And I was just like, what? So that kind of pushed me back from wanting the fame aspect of modeling, and I started focusing on the influential part of modeling in terms of what am I presenting to the world, or what am I showing little girls, or what am I showing people that look like me. So if I were to change something, I guess I would be more of an influence to younger people coming. So I guess I'll be like an influencer.
Still do
in
that.
A way.
Yeah.
But just anything along that line. I mean, I love my field. I love my career. I love my job. It's not what I expected I'll be doing, but I'm happy that I'm doing it and I'm in this field. The cooking and the restaurant and the farm and the smoothie. I have a passion for food. I love food. My partner, he's a chef. His whole family is a chef, and we kind of came together with that love, and we created something really beautiful. And the reason we have a farm is, in Congo, I grew up eating farm food. I grew up eating food that my grandma grew. My mom grew, food that I grew. And coming to America, I was sick for 4 months because everything is so processed. I literally couldn't take the milk. I couldn't drink milk for a while, and I still don't drink dairy milk. I only drink non-dairy. But so that kind of inspired us to get our own farm where we grow our own food, we grow our own vegetables, and we teach people the importance of growing your own food and knowing your farmers and knowing what goes inside of your body. So that inspired the farm project, our farm in New York City. And yeah, that's about it.
As far as career path, I think I was pretty lucky because unlike most of the African parents, they didn't really want me to be a doctor or anything crazy like that. So, and very young, I think every time my parents were going on those meeting with the professors and things like that, my mom always noticed that they were saying something about me being good with creative, with colors. So I guess that was something that was there since very, very young. So automatically I went for a heavy art options in high school, and from there I went straight to a pure full design school, so and all the way up to a master in graphic design. So being in a creative, I guess that was something that was meant to be. And from there, I guess after my master, a little bit before my master, I came to New York to do my master internship, and I think I had a really great experience. Back then, I had Vibe Vixen magazine, so it was a really good experience, and I could say, I can see myself living in New York. That could be the thing. And I did finish my study, and I just packed my stuff, and I came to New York. And after a couple months, networking and talking to people, I got my first job. So, and I met some very, very creative people. And I think that was probably will do the same because I think I met some really extremely talented designer, and I think if I'm a good designer today is because I came across these people, and we were able to learn from each other. We were able to I was able to expand the way I see design, the way I create visual, and become this good, this good graphic designer. And just being able, I guess, after now that I'm doing the magazine, I can see that I can use all that skill, so that's good. I would say, do I want to change something? Maybe the only thing that I would probably change is maybe I would probably start the magazine earlier, but I guess back then I was less focused, so I was not having the same, I guess, priority where I was having a good job and living in New York. We're young, we're black, we're beautiful, So probably just, maybe start a little earlier. But even that, I think now that I'm more, I guess, focused, that's probably maybe why we are able to do the magazine. We're working on issue 7 now, so I think we're getting a lot of like good feedback as far as like good visual, great covers, great content. So and then we keep growing. So career-wise, I think I'm okay, and I'm pretty happy with the path that I have. And obviously, I'm encouraging in general African people to pursue creative career, because I think there's a lot of like talents, there's a lot of people that could live from that. And I think it's even me with my career, I tell other people like it's okay to leave, to let your kids be I don't know, a hairstylist or a makeup artist. I have a makeup artist that I work with, and she was telling me, she's from Congo as well, and she was telling me, I did makeup and my parents were looking at me like, this girl, like really, like you trying to do makeup? And I guess when she started having her first check, her parents realized that, oh, actually you can make a living from being a makeup artist. And she was like, yeah, like I'm making, I'm doing makeup for like super well-known celebrities and things like that. So I think once they saw that she was able to live from there, they were just like, okay, cool. And I think it's just like more, I guess, in the mentality, more parents, more family needs to be okay having their children do something that is not conventional. Because you could be, like I tell people all the time, you can be an electrician, you can be whatever. If you're the best at what you do in your field, then it's the most important. The being a doctor or having a PhD, it's not sometimes the the end of the world, but you can be like I say, a great plumber, and then from there you can have the whole business from your country to your city, and just live from there, have employees. So yeah, I think that would be my thing as far as like career wise, and hopefully encourage more people to become entrepreneur. It's not easy, but I think it's self how you say that, self, comment on dit, c'est satisfying, because I think I worked in magazine industry for many years before I started my own, and I was looking at myself, I was like, okay, I'm sitting in this office, I'm doing great work, and then what's next? Like, what do I gain from that? Because at the end of the day, I don't have a house in Hampton. My boss does have that, I don't drive the fancy car, but I can see the numbers of hours that I'm putting, into this company, and I'm not really, I'm not gonna say I don't make a good living, but I'm like, what's next? So, and for me, that was also the push and the decision to kind of quit, and just like, I think if I'm a good designer, I need to use that and put it into my culture and figure something out. And I was like, maybe since you're already into the magazine industry, maybe start your own product and highlight what you want, create what you want. And obviously, I think that's the satisfaction, being able to use the skills to showcase, who we are.
So career-wise, I'm surprised that I'm here. This is not the path I would have had for myself. So I had it a lot tougher. My father passed away the summer before my senior year. So I went from having diplomatic status to nothing. And so I had to deal with paperwork, getting political asylum, Going through college was really difficult. I didn't get the fun college hangout experience. I worked 3 jobs to pay my tuition, and I have younger siblings. So I went into finance because I can work really hard and make money and support people when it's time for them to go to college. I hated it. But, when you're in survival mode, you do what you have to do. And then, get married, still doing finance. And I had my daughter, who was born 13 weeks early. So then that became the focus, right? So I stayed in finance and real estate development so I can keep the benefits and keep working. And then when she was 5 or 6, she comes to me, she's like, "Mommy, what do you want to do when you grow up?" I was like, well, it's a great question, darling. She's like, you like fashion, you like to help people, why don't you do something more interesting? And I'm like, you're right, my job sucks. But, it paid for tuition, pays for apartment in the city, we got a house upstate. She's like, it sucks. I'm like, yeah, it sucks. So that was really the start of it. It was my, 5, 6-year-old questioning me and asking me why am I not doing something that I like. And I've been in such survival mode that I never actually thought about doing something that brought me pleasure and is something that I've always wanted to do for a long time. Because when you become basically an orphan, because my mom passed when I was 13, you're in survival mode, right? You're just doing things to stay at a certain level and keep going. So after my daughter's intervention, I started thinking about what I like. So I did my pros and cons, what I like. And I knew I wanted to go back home and help people. And I also wanted to find a way to support my family without constantly sending them Western Union, because that also adds up. So I was like, all right, how do I do this and meet all these goals? And I came back to what my family used to do. My mom was a commerçant. My aunts, they used to travel to Europe, buy things, bring it back. And I fell in love with it again. And I started decorating my house upstate. I was like, I want to do it. Let's do a test project at my house. And I reached out to Tsunami. I was like, look, I want to do this thing. I'm going to do research for 5 years. I'm going to do it right. And finally, I was just like, you know what, let's just do it. Let's start. We'll learn as we go along. And we'll, make mistakes and we'll have some gains. And so I just started it. And this is my dream job. This is what I've always wanted to do. And it's quite satisfying not having to be in survival mode and do something I actually really love, and having that connection to home and the continent, and seeing things that you have in your head come to fruition, and then also helping the artisans be able to make a living for themselves and seeing their lives change. So I technically wouldn't change anything because I had no choice. Having choices and options, you're lucky in life. But I'm happy that I got to this point.
It's so interesting that you talk about survival mode, because I think a lot of us in the diaspora are in survival mode because we feel like this is what we need to do in order to, survive in this environment, and very little of what do I like to do and what do I have to do. In terms of challenges, how have they evolved? What were your challenges when you just got started versus at the point where you are now? What are your challenges nowadays, and how are you able to overcome them at every step of the way?
Can I be brutally honest?
Yeah.
Working with Africans is a challenge. Nobody wants to do the work when they're supposed to do it. Everybody has a problem. Everybody thinks they know what you want. You'll say, okay, I want these earrings, I want this shape, this color, here's the measurement. Oh no, mama, je croyais. You're like, oh Jesus, when they start calling you mama, you know that, it's about to go down, right? It's, when you work with different cultures, you have to understand the work style, right? Not everybody's 9 to 5. I get that. I'm not a 9 to 5 person. That's not how I best work either. But when you are making something for someone and it's their vision and it's their idea, and you say, I can do it. Pas de problème, je peux le faire. Oh, Naibi. Okay. Show me the process. send me pictures throughout the whole process, right? And videos. And then I want to see it before you send it to me. You don't get pictures throughout the whole process. They just send it to you, and it's garbage. So you've wasted 3 weeks, you've wasted money on materials, you wasted money on labor. And you're like, I can't sell this in America. I can't sell this on the street. I can't sell this anywhere. This is trash. So then you say that to somebody, you're evil, it's hard working with women, oh, you guys are so difficult. And you're like, you gave me trash product. And I am doing this to get this beautiful imagery and story of Africa through our jewelry and our home decor and our clothes, and represent it in a way that's positive, right? Because we have such beautiful things. We're the original artists. And you give me trash. And you expect me to just take it and to continue to waste money on it. It's very difficult. I yell at people more than I've ever yelled at people in my life. I am always on WhatsApp yelling at somebody for doing things wrong, giving me the wrong color of stuff. You're like, okay, go to Côte d'Ivoire, buy me these fabrics, we're gonna do the bags in this print. They come back, oh, I decided on this one, and then you see them for Ramadan wearing your fabric in a full boo-boo. You know, like it's very frustrating working with people on the continent. There's pluses, but it's very frustrating. It's very difficult, and my diplomatic side has gone out the window. I've just become a straight dictator, because if you don't, you don't get what you need. And period, that's it.
Challenges.
I guess kind of like what you said is not depending on people, kind of like putting all your trust in one person, assuming they're going to do what they said they would do, or they're going to do what you want them to do. When I first started, I was just kind of like, oh, I trust this person to do it, or like, I trust this person to do it, or I'm going to listen to this person's advice, or I'm going to do, what this person says. And that was really difficult. But now I'm sticking to my own thoughts. Like, I'm thinking, if my spirit is telling me don't do this, I'm not doing it. Like, I'm gonna assign someone something to do, but I'm gonna do my part too, and I just assume they're gonna give me like the full product. So I'm learning to just do things on my own, the way I want to do it, and how I want to represent myself and my brand. When I started modeling, it's all about your brand and modeling. Like, what is your brand? What is your brand? And when I first started, my brand was what anyone told me was. Like, this is your brand, great, that's my brand. This is what you're supposed to do, great, this is what I'm supposed to do. And now I'm realizing, whoa, hold up, that's not our brand, that's not what I'm gonna do, that's not what my company, that's not what I represent. Like, I hate when people volunteer and they halfway volunteer. Like, it's like, I'm gonna volunteer, but you can't call me asking me about the project because I'm volunteering. You know what I mean? Like, so now I'm just like, you know what? I'm gonna pay you. This is what you have to do. So at least I know if you don't do it, I get my money back. You know what I mean? So that's also been a learning point for me. Not everyone is really volunteering when they say they're volunteering. But just learning to do things your way, and understanding that everyone's not gonna give you. They'll give you, they're not gonna give you the right product.
I think for what Adolphine said, working with African is not easy, but I think I still do, because we have to figure out how to work together. We have to learn how to trust each other, which is a process. But I think the challenges is more like, I tell that to people, I do 500 things at the same time, because the few times that I ask someone to do something for me, I wasn't either satisfied, or I was like, oh, this is not looking good. We can't use that, so I'm just gonna do it myself. At least I know that if it's not looking good, I can only be mad at me. That's really where it comes down to, where I don't want to be mad at someone else, because honestly, I don't have that much patience for people. So it's a very difficult process for me to even explain when someone doesn't necessarily understand. So it's easy to do it for them to see, and then maybe you can show them. So a lot of people like DM me like, oh, I want to intern for your magazine, I want to do this, I want to do that, and I'm like, I'm not ready for that. I'm like, cool. I'm like, cool. Okay, maybe when we get the office, we're currently looking for one. I'm like, I'll have some interns, but like right now, I'm working from like a smaller space, so I need to be like efficient and this and that. So it's like, okay, maybe in the future, because I know like the few times where I'm like, even I had the conversation with someone was like, yeah, but oh, I could help you with this, I could help you with that. I'm like, yeah, but every time I went and get the chance to have someone help me with this or that, I had to end up do it over. So that was a waste of time. So it's annoying, but I'm gonna do it myself. Even if I have to sleep at 4 or 5 a.m., it's okay. I'm gonna do it myself, and at least I'll be happy. And if there's anything wrong, I can only be mad at myself, and I won't have to curse nobody out, and that's fine, you know. But I think that we just need to figure out how to work with each other. And I think also me involving in this process, in this magazine, in this media, I know how to choose better who I work with. I think it's just a learning thing where the more I go, the more I know how to choose better. And obviously thank God for my core team, because I trust them a lot with things where I know that they're going to do it the right way, because we've been working since issue 1 together. So you learn how to build, you know, your trust on who you work. But it's obviously, it's difficult to do everything. So the more we go, the more you have to expand that trust. And I think it's coming. And I think also as African, we have to trust each other more. And my thing is like, if you don't know how to do something, just say it. Because say it. I mean, it's just, I think that's one thing that I tell all the time people. I don't mind telling someone I don't know how to do something. Like, I have no shame. Like, if I don't know how to do something, this is not the person I am. And I'm going to tell you right away, I don't know how to do something, but I might know someone who can help you, who knows that industry better, who know this, who know that. I can help you with the things that I know, but that I don't know. And I think people just need to be okay saying, you know what, I want to do that. I'm not sure how to. Can you show me? Or is there someone that you can put me in touch with that can show me, so next time in the future when you need that, I'll be able to do it for you. You know what I mean? So it's more like honesty in what you can give versus, you know, just saying, oh, yes, and then you just like, give us, like, you just be like, ooh, if I knew. You know. So, and I think there's a lot of like talented people in our community, and I think once we learn how to communicate better with, you know, within our, you know, our group of people, when we're gonna know how or when to use each other, that's gonna be an easier process for the future. But I think it's still very important for us to work within the community. Like, I remember like when I do shoots, like people say, oh my God, there's a lot of black people on set. I'm like, yeah, because I think it's, you know, it's important, like, to work with black photographers. I'm not saying that when I shoot something, there's only black photographers. I work with all kinds of people. I don't have that kind of, you know, stress. But I think in general, if I can put someone that look like me to do the job, I will probably go for that, because I think the more you're gonna be able to give the chance, the more they're gonna be able to do what they love at a, you know, at a bigger scale. Like, I just shot the last editorial for the new issue with a stylist that I never worked with. I mean, we worked on another shoot. He was just here to assist, and I was like, okay, I think you bring a lot of positive things during that shoot, and I think you're creative. And he went and he was like, Kez, I'm telling you, trust me, this is something that I really want to do, and I don't necessarily know where to start, but you have a magazine. And even me, I was like, okay, you want to style? I have a magazine. You could probably, you know, the next editorial is yours if you really are going to do it the right way, and you're going to be focused, and you're going to do the thing. And I'm super happy that I gave him the chance, because I know from doing that editorial, he's going to do more and more and more, and maybe other magazine, other people, like the model who's a A-list model was like, you got me fresh, like the clothes, like outfit after outfit were just getting better and better. So you know that just giving the chance to that one person maybe within the next year or so too, he's going to be out there styling, I don't know, celebrities or whoever. But I think it's just like giving the chance to the right person, and hopefully people in our community. But I think it's changing, where we're working a little bit better and more together. And even me, like sometimes I'm looking for something and I'm calling someone like Noella. I was like, oh Noella, do you know anybody that's doing this or that? I'm looking for that for this next, magazine, next issue. So it's like, oh yeah, you should reach out to my friend so and so, or you should reach out to so and so. He's really good. So I think it's just a matter of like also exchanging, and not being afraid to share the information. Because I think also the problem that we have is we feel like if someone know better or have more, we're gonna stay behind. It's not the point. It's like, if I can give you something for you to move forward in your business, I think within African entrepreneur, we should being able to help each other without even wanting to gain something out of that. But if tomorrow I can put you in touch with someone again that's gonna make you move forward within your business, absolutely, I'm going to do it. There's no reason for me to say no. So, but it's a process.
Okay, so now I have individual questions for each one of you. For Delphine, as a store owner evolving in the fashion industry, what are your thoughts on the lack of prominent African designer and the perception that goods that come from Africa are not as good as the ones from Europe or America?
Well, I hate that perception. It's quite rubbish. And that is one of our huge stumbling blocks with our brand. Before we turn an interested party into a consumer, there's a huge educational aspect that we must do, right? And it's time consuming. It's a bit stereotypical, but that's the barriers we have to surpass. So we have to explain to them the stuff you see, when you go on a cruise line in safari, is not really made by Africans, is made in a factory in China. Things that we sell actually have a story, and they're handmade, so they're not going to look exactly the same. You might get two, Cuba necklaces, and they look a bit different because they're handmade, because this is the art, this is the process. And so there's a huge gap that we must pass before we turn people into consumers and understand the story and why we do what we do and why we pick what we pick. But it's now popular to be African. It's cool to be African. Everybody, wants to be African, but they do it more in a consumer way. It's, I feel like it's temporary. It's trendy, yes. It's trendy to be African. For us, we're not trends, we're people. We have histories, we have families, we have stories that we care about. We come from certain tribes, and we are all part of this African community. So it's also a bit hurtful when it becomes trendy and you see, some random, I'll just pick, X, wearing, Cuba coat, and then they'll say it's Cuba inspired, and they're like selling it for like $2,000, and they pay the artisans $5. It's quite annoying. So I feel like fashion should have more of a moral responsibility with things, with their inspiration, with their stories, and how they make things. And okay, fine, it's great to follow the trend, but there's also like a moral, personal responsibility. And I think when you're African and you have an African business and you're in fashion, you take that in more. It's more personal to you, so you're careful with the images you take, you're careful with the people you work with, you're careful what you pay, you're just more aware. And I wish the consumers would be more aware of that too, because you get the same amazing quality, but it's going straight directly to the people, So I just wish, if it's going to be cool, trendy to be African, I just wish that different fashion companies would be more morally responsible.
And for you, Kezia, as the owner of a fashion magazine, how do you overcome the perception that bigger magazines such as Vogue are more valuable, or that they are the trendsetters, hashtag Vogue Challenge? And how important do you think is it for Africans to have their own fashion magazines?
I think people give value to something. So, and that's what I'm saying, where we need to trust and work with each other more, because sometimes I feel like people don't necessarily do the homework. So if today Vogue has more value, it's because people are out there buying it. People are out there spending their money into their product. And versus us African, where it's unfortunate to say that, but a black person or African person will probably spend their $7 on the Vogue, but they're gonna be, do I want to spend my $7 on an Afropolitan magazine? I don't know. But if you think about it, 90% of the time, they will go and buy something that is non-African. And I think we have to do the work about changing that. And obviously, the more we go, the more people know who we are. And when they see the magazine, they actually buy one copy. They're like, oh, okay, it's clean, is this, is that. So the first time, I remember the first issue that we did with Serge and Noela, when I handled the magazine to someone, he was like, oh, wow, it's super sharp, and the design and that. And me and Maman, I was like, what do you expect from a black magazine? Like, and I told him, I was like, he was like, oh, you the owner? I was like, yeah, I'm the founder. I do also like the creative direction, the design. I do the design myself. And he was just surprised. I'm like, why are you even surprised? Like, for me, it's more like it's normal to do a great product, because that's why I learn at school. That's why I built my career to do good-looking product, So for him, like when he had that reaction, I was like, and that's exactly what we have to change in general in the African community. The product, the quality, le rendu final. We need la finition exactement. So it's like the more people are going to see brands like hers or mine or hers doing a great thing, the more people are going to want to be a part of this. So it's like me, when we shoot or anything that we do, I was like, okay, stylist, I want you to pull, and I want you to do homework and pull from African designer, because today we have a platform, and we have a growing platform, and we are able to give someone a push. So Valentino, Chanel, they don't need Afropolitan magazine. They're already well known. But other designers that might not be well known, they need us, because tomorrow we're going to be able to put some clothes from back home to maybe a super top model or super top celebrity, and that could be a start from something you don't know. But like the last photo shoot that we did, we had clothes coming from Nigeria, from Ivory Coast, from Benin, from London, Paris, and that was only African and black designers. And again, if we don't do the work, then there's nothing that we shouldn't complain. That's my thing. Black people sometimes, and African, we complain about not having this, not having that, but at the end of the day, when we ask you to do the work, you're not doing the work. So you're not supporting. So I don't really want it. Every time people ask me about this and complaining, I was like, you know what? I don't want to hear it, because when you're going to have $500 in your pocket, instead of investing and buying a clothes from an African designer, you're going to go out there and buy that Gucci dress on sale. So it's either we are real with each other, or we're not. And I think also one problem that we do have as African is we don't necessarily want to hear the truth, but sometimes we have to say it. So the fashion industry can only change if the people change it. It's simple as that. Like, you will have more African designers or more African this if African themselves, do the work. Like, you will never hear a celebrity say, oh my God, I'm tired of wearing like French designer. How many times I heard an African say, oh my God, those African designers, this African print, complaining. I'm like, this is exactly why we're not going anywhere. This is exactly why we're not going anywhere, because no, I mean, it's true. Like, it's true, because I'm like, if we want things to change, the change, I say that all the time. Like, even now with what's going on with people in the streets and marching and everything, who wants change, and I say that to everybody. We want change. this change, you know where that starts? At home. It starts within our community. Don't ask for someone else to respect you when you don't do the work at home. It cannot happen. So us, as being a media and being who we are now and growing and having even more visibility, for me it's major and it's very, very important that we do support somehow who we are and what we stand for and our people. So whether it's talking about a designer, wearing African clothes, teaching our culture, we have to do the job. We have to do the work, and we have to be in the front line. If we're not in the front line, nothing in those industry change. Like, there's not enough black magazine. You know what? Why don't we do one? Why don't we create a product that looks like us, that says who we are, and that we're gonna be happy about? That's it. We can't just sit here and complain about not having when we're not really trying to do the work. Whether you're in fashion or the food industry or media, it's like, you want something, you go get it. You go get it. And in 2020, I think we have the ability to pretty much do anything.
Can I add to that? So the support is so key from your fellow Africans, right? And this is why it's BISO, and BISO is so good, because you do have this network and there is the support, and Liz is really great about introducing you to different Congolese people, because, I work, I'm socially awkward, I'm not on social media and all that stuff. So I don't really know unless I see it on her page. I'm like, oh, what's this? What's Congolese Prodigies? What's this? What's that? Because I don't know. And my head's down, I'm yelling at people, and I'm trying to get my kid to do division, right? I'm not really paying attention. But you have to support your own people. And if you can't buy the items, you can follow them on social media, réseaux sociaux. You can comment, you can like, it helps their algorithm, right? You can buy a magazine, it's $7. It's not a big deal.
You'd be surprised.
And stop asking for discounts. All right, we've already priced things properly so people can get paid properly, and there's costs for shipping and all that stuff. Just because you're African, it doesn't mean you deserve a discount when you come on my page. So don't email me asking me for a 50% discount or anything like that. Be supportive in however you can, but be nice too and be kind. I think we miss that in all this. People can be so mean, and we're all trying to get this message across that we Africans are here, we're hardworking, we have this beautiful story. It's not just poverty and war and stealing colting. There's more to life, and if our own people are not supportive and are so cruel on social media, how do you think everybody else would treat us? So being kind and being supportive in a way that you can, using a platform like this and networking, which I hate doing, but I have to deal with it. Networking is very important.
It is, but just to come back to what you say about let's say something like the Vogue challenge, where again, you see black people who were looking for attention, and I'm like, why don't you use other black magazine to do the same thing? Again, you're going to use a product that at the end of the day and down the line, they don't care. And it's unfortunate to say, but Africa right now, it's a huge trend, and everybody's trying to take advantage from it. Everybody's trying to monetize that. So I was like, if we have to monetize, might as well us, African, monetize from it, because at least we true to our culture. For me, I tell people the funny thing sometimes, my first years here, everybody was like, oh, Kez, you always talk about the African this, Africa that, da 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 da. At my job, I was the only African. I was working for African American magazine. I was the only African in the office. So you hear things, and now you be like, oh, now you finally guys are catching up. That's great, cool. So for us, being African is since the day we born until now. That's who we are. So that's not a trend. We're gonna be here forever. We're gonna stay forever. So if we wanna even take more advantage of that, we have to really just get in and support and spend our money, share our skills, share our content. Like you say, or share a post, or just say, hey, I just met this great designer. She got a great story. Go check out her clothes. Go check out her restaurant. It doesn't hurt to say anything like that. It doesn't cost you even $1 to say, oh, go follow this person, she's a great entrepreneur, I'm sure there's something that you might like, or someone that you know might like. And I think it's just about really just being in the front line and just do the work.
Basically, very briefly, I know that you're into food, you have a restaurant. How are you able to continue running your restaurant with the lockdown and, you know, the whole current environment?
I was so cool.
I know it's been real because it's very because it's very customer service based, right?
It's been actually, thank God, it hasn't been hard for us. The beginning was quite like difficult because everything was shut down, and we were trying to get like our licensing and like electricity. We need people to come, like, you know, the state has to come and approve certain things, and, you know, the electricity people have to come and approve certain things for us to start running. So that was really hard because everything was shut down. Like, it was only through email, and not everyone's sitting in front of their computer. So we would send something, and we need them to come check it the next day so we can get our permit, our license to start running next week, and we don't get a response till 2 weeks later, and then we have to like start all over. So that was really hard. But in terms of like renovating the space, we were just extremely blessed to have a good support system of friends who were very helpful, like she said, like just coming together as a community and helping each other out in whatever way we can. We had literally everything that was done in the restaurant was because of friends. But in terms of everything they said, it's just the community has to come together 100%. Like, we can't expect, like the Vogue challenge. Oh my gosh, I was so annoyed every time I saw that Vogue challenge image down my like.
Funny thing is, like, people were tagging Afropolitan on the Vogue challenge. I just wanted to curse everybody out. Like, why would you tag me on the Vogue challenge? Like, for me to post it on the page?
What sense did it make? Like, literally, like, and it's the same people that were writing Black Lives Matter on their Instagram, like, you know, the industry needs to change, and it's the exact same people. Like, how many times has like Gucci done something totally disrespectful towards the Black community, yet we're lined up in line buying Gucci bags? You know what I mean? Like, it's just like a slap to the face, and that's why they're still doing what they're doing, because they see that we don't care. We're not together. Like, we're not together at all. And having a restaurant has surprisingly opened my eyes a lot to that issue, because we are not together in any industry, or any field, in anything. Like in food, why is a majority of our customers Caucasian and not people that look like me?
I have the same thing. Most of my consumers are white. I have very few African customers.
Yeah. And then when white people do what they're good at doing, you want to complain? You can't complain because you're not supporting your own people. And when there's a group of people who can't support each other, someone else can come in and control that group, because there's no unity. So, and that's why the problem that's happening in the world is happening, because we have no unity within ourselves. And it's really hard to have unity within ourselves because we've been messed up for so long. So like, it's like, I can't blame you, but now we're woke. You know what I mean?
We do have a past, but I think now that things are changing, we can't just keep using that as an excuse. It's just like redundant, where it's like there is issues from the past, but now that we are aware of what's wrong and what's going on, like, how do we fix it? You know, we can't just sit here and say, oh yeah, because this happened, then that's what. It's like, okay, we are that way, but we can change it. And if we really want to change it, there's the work to do. And I think that's the problem sometimes, where people don't want to do the work. It's not easy, but there is things to change, and we have to do the work.
All right, thank you. All right. Yeah, I think we can like go on and on about everything that we need to change in the community. But I'm going to finish up with the last question before giving it back to the audience. So I'm going to give everybody 1 minute. If you have any advice for 30 seconds for the younger generation or a younger self coming into the industry, what would it be?
I would say stay true to who you really, really are. Don't let anyone's opinion kind of detour you from your dreams and what you're trying to pursue. So, just find a good dream team, stick with them, and pray, and you will go far in life.
I mean, what can I say? I think that we have a big culture, and I think that's a great advantage that we have. And I think that the advice that I can give is like, be proud of who you are, and don't be scared to represent what you are, and just go for it. You know what I mean? Like, if you have any ideas or if you think about doing something, try it, because if you don't, you never really have the answer whether it's difficult or not. So just go for it, take the risk, and you never know, a risk can lead you to bigger and better. So just not be afraid, and obviously stay true to who you are and be proud to what you represent.
So what I tell my daughter is life is a tasting menu. You have to try everything. And if you want to be an entrepreneur, I implore you to learn on somebody else's time and earn money and save and be financially savvy, because things happen. You have your highs and lows running a business. But if you're financially savvy and you can be frugal and do what you love, you will always be happy. You'll always have enough, and you can really move the ball forward for yourself and other people.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Okay, so that was the last question I'm going to give. So thank you for answering all our questions. And I want to give the last word to Liz Bissonabiso. Thank you for having us. Thank you for putting all this together.
This was amazing. I'm so glad that we're able to have this conversation, and that's it for today. And we're just gonna network, hang out, and enjoy the last hour. And you can have some more drinks, have some more food to eat, network, and that's pretty much it. Thank you, guys.